What is going on, everybody? It's Larry back with you, and today we're going to talk about why I'm getting rid of all my Sony gear. And the reason for that is what you are watching me through right now, which is the Canon 5D Mark IV. Now I got this in from B&H on loan, but I've decided that I'm going to keep it. The kit that I got will be linked down in the description below, but it's the 5D Mark IV with the 24 to 105 f4L lens. And at first I didn't have the intention of switching. I just wanted to try Canon out again. It's been a little while. Going back to the Canon, there are just some features, and not all of them are on par with the Sony, but enough of them to make me want to make the jump. So this video, I'm just going to be going into the pluses and the minuses of the Canon versus the A7R2. One of the top reasons that I'm enjoying using the 5D Mark IV is really for photography. I do a lot of photography, and I used this yesterday. I actually brought the A7R2 and the 5D Mark IV to the Nashville Zoo, and I had them both out and was shooting with both, and I was gonna do a comparison video, and then it got to be about 15 minutes in and I decided I didn't even wanna shoot with the Sony anymore, and I put it back in my backpack and never took it out again. And probably halfway through the zoo, after halfway of only shooting with the Canon, I pretty much had my mind made up that I was going to do whatever I needed to do to get the 5D Mark IV as my permanent camera. Now that being said, that's just the photography side. But talking about the photography before we get into the video, the colors that come off the Canon are just spectacular. Yes, I shoot RAW and I can actually pretty much tweak all of my Sony files to match what a Canon puts out, but that takes a lot of time, whereas the Canon, I almost can use straight out of the camera. Now granted, I'm gonna put up some pictures right now of before and after editing them. I have a certain editing style where I like the pictures to be real punchy, a lot of contrast and a lot of vibrance. So that's my personal preference. But if I shoot in standard on the 5D Mark IV, it's really just a few tweaks and I get the exact picture that I'm looking for. Whereas with the Sony, it takes me a little bit longer in Lightroom to get what I really like. The other thing that this has above at least the A7R2 in the Sony line, the A9 is a different story, but let's just talk about what I'm switching from, is dual media. Now the 5D, I'm start calling it the 5D, I'm gonna quit saying the Mark IV. It is the Canon 5D Mark IV. The 5D that I have here has the CF card. No, it's not a CF card, is it? Yeah, compact flash. So it has a CF card slot as well as an SD card slot, and you can set the camera up to record to one or the other, or you can do a redundancy and record, or your photos can be sent to both. The reason why that's important is if you're shooting a wedding or really anything, you want redundancy. Well, with the Sony A7R2, I didn't have that option. Now with the Canon, I do. Basically, that's about it for photography. Again, it's a DSLR. There's some things that I'll have to get used to after coming from a mirrorless. The electronic viewfinder in the Sony, I like because you're actually seeing what you're shooting, whereas with the DSLR, you make your adjustments, you need to take a picture to actually see what that adjustment is and make sure that you're right. You can actually do more fine tuning on the fly, easier with the Sony, but I'm willing to make that trade-off. When I first got the Canon in and I started messing with it, it was really frustrating to me because I've been using this one for about 1.5 years for photos and video. And on the photo side, I was really used to the EVF. So that being said, after yesterday at the zoo, I'm willing to make that sacrifice, if you want to call it a sacrifice. But yeah, that's it for the photos. That's why I switched over for photography. So now you can see me looking at my phone a lot, and the reason why I'm doing that is probably the #1 reason why I'm going to switch over for video. Now I have the Canon app open, and as you can see, I have the autofocus on, and if you can make it out, it's tracking my face. Canon dual pixel autofocus is ridiculously good. I don't need to tell anybody that. Anybody that knows anything about cameras knows that. But the reason I have to use this is with my Sony, I would use the Atomos Ninja Assassin. And I would have it mounted to the top, and I could see my focus with focus peaking. I had a large 7-inch display that I could always see. Right now I'm literally looking at the lens. One, that's good because I won't catch myself looking at a monitor that's up top. I'll actually try to stay focused into the lens. But the other thing that's a negative is I don't get to see my framing. But The positive is the Wi-Fi and the app on the Canon is amazing. The Sony was always super laggy and I never used it for anything except for transferring pictures from my phone, from my camera to my phone to upload to Instagram or Facebook. But this, it's actually usable. I've actually used it on the computer when I was doing some overhead photography the other day for Instagram. But right now I can set up my shot, check the framing, where I'm at in the frame, and actually look to see if I'm in focus. I can tap my face to start the autofocus tracking, and then I can actually start the recording. I can adjust shutter speed, my aperture, my ISO. It's very powerful and it's very, very good. So that's sort of eliminates the need for the Atomos Assassin. Another negative though is that it shoots in motion JPEG, which, as anybody that will tell you, or if you Google it, is a very old codec for video, but the 4K footage looks fantastic. This is 4K footage. I think it looks really good. The other thing that I'm not going to be keeping the Atomos, because you would think, well, why don't you just keep it? You can plug into it and have those features and you're good to go. You cannot output through the HDMI 4K to an external recorder. So that sort of eliminates my Atomos Ninja Assassin. So now if I use it, I'll only be able to record in 1080p, not 4K. Love the Wi-Fi. Love, love, love. The camera's also got NFC, but obviously with the iPhone, I'm not really going to be using that, but it is there. So some of the negatives, like I said with the video, there's no focus peaking, there's no zebra, there's really none of the creature comforts for video that you get built into the Sony or built into the Ninja Assassin. I keep pointing because it's over there. I love Sony's autofocus. It's not as good as this, but it has the active eye tracking where I can press a button, it's gonna zoom focus in on someone's eye and actually track it. That's fantastic. This camera is nothing wrong with it. It's great for photos, it's great, it's fantastic for video, but for me at this time, I'm doing more photography than I am video. So the photography needs to come first. Canon, photography's first and video second. Sony, I think video's first, photography's second. Personal opinion. So as I said, nothing negative with the Sony. Canon has its faults and its pluses and its minuses. Sony has its plus and its minuses. But for me right now, at this point of where I am in my journey of photography and video, Canon is the best way for me to go. There's a ton more things that the 5D can do, and I may get into a video with that. I usually don't do videos on my gear that deep showing you all the different intricacies, but I am going to be upgrading this Canon 5D Mark IV to actually put the C-Log into it for video. The C-Log is definitely worth the $100. The only thing I don't like is when I paid the $100 for log with Panasonic, it was just a firmware update. I paid the $100 they sent me. I was able to download, they sent me a code, I'm able to download it, boom, load it in, there you go. Canon, you actually have to send it out, and from what I hear, it takes about a week or so. So that's going to be a little bit of a bummer, but I think it's well worth it. So if there's anything you guys want to know, any questions you have on why I'm ditching the Sony, leave it down in the comment section below and I will answer every single one of those questions. If I need to do a follow-up video, I'll do that. If there's a bunch of questions that seem to justify a follow-up video, maybe I'll do one on that as well. But if there's anything you're curious about the Canon 5D Mark IV, leave it down in the comment section below or tweet at me at GeekyNerdDad or hit me up on Instagram. But I'm going to be doing a follow-up video, probably my workflow for video now that it's changed so dramatically, going from the Sony to the Canon. So if anything you want to know about that transition or any questions you have, leave it down below. So that's going to be it. I just wanted to quickly give you guys a rundown of why I'm making this switch, and that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I will talk to you in the next video.